Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or know your nation, know yourself. The two are interchangeable. All right, so today I am piloting something new, man. So, welcome to what is the inaugural Reflections show. I'm going to aim to do these maybe once a week or maybe once every couple of weeks. I'll see how it goes, but this is the first one, and this came to me the other day. You would have heard me mention this in my Thursday Friday, and I just thought, such are the transformations that are going on in the world right now. As many of you would have heard me describe, as I said, there will be epic changes, especially from the 29th of March 2025. Changes as well, very much in the world, but particularly in the United States of America, in terms of the seat of power, America's seat of power in the world. And of course, we have seen so much thus far, especially in regards to the economy, which, as you know, is basically tanking. Yeah, tanking as it goes in. We'll have to see what happens come next week. But so I'll talk a little bit about that. But what is this about? It's kind of inspired by someone called Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, here's the this is the penguin. Is it the penguin? No. I'm getting this wrong. Capstone. It says here. But Meditations, basically is a classic of Marcus Aurelius, who used to be one of the emperors of Rome, one of the wisest people to ever have lived. And in his Meditations, his book, of course, is called Meditations. Many of you will know it, but if you don't, it's called Meditations. Thousands of years old now, this book. And in it, it is full of his observations about humanity, Stoicism, and the description of virtues. Yeah, virtues, and his reflections as well on vice, wrongdoing, and how an emperor could be a good governor. That's essentially what his works are about. And this came to me, and this show, of course, is called Reflections. So the idea is that we come together and we reflect on the week that has gone before. This is why I want to, have this come out on Saturdays. So it's a reflection on the week that's gone before, of course, before the next week starts. Now, we live in times where every day is like a massive news day. But I also wanted to focus on something either unusual, of novelty in the world, or something very positive as well. And some concepts that we can discuss together, and things that can help elevate the consciousness and elevate the mood in these very extraordinary and challenging times. Yeah. So what I'm gonna, and it will just be each week, assuming I do this each week or every other week, I will start with a quote either from Marcus Aurelius or some other kind of sage. But here, I'm in book one, and this is part 11. And you'll see here I've highlighted this. And I got this book. I actually got this book back in 2020. Back in 2020, I got this book. Gosh, which is 5 years ago now. Wow. What have I put here? I don't know. Oh, look at this. What have I put here? Look, I'm even reading my own note here. Yeah. What have I put here? This book belongs to Hogarth Brown. Oh, wait. I got this on the 3rd of the 3rd, 2022. I bought this book to quote from on my YouTube channel, and that's why I put the date there, 30th of March 2020, which of course was 5 years ago, and many of you would have watched that live show when my show became exactly 5 years old. Anyway, look, I had already highlighted this comment, well, this part of Marcus Aurelius years ago, but how pertinent and relevant it is now. And this is why I'm going to start this show with this quote. So here, like I said, here. Years ago, I highlighted this. Part 11 of book 1. From Fronto, I learned to observe that envy and duplicity and hypocrisy are in a tyrant. Yeah, so I'll say that again. From Fronto, I learned to observe that envy and duplicity and hypocrisy are in a tyrant, and that generally those among us who are called patricians are rather deficient in paternal affection. Now, if we think about that, if we think, and this is the part where I have the little rant, if we think in terms of what is happening right now on the world stage, yeah, with Duc L'Orange effectively declaring economic war on the whole world, yeah, economic war on the whole world, but in such a blanketed, blunt, and unsophisticated way, because not only are countries, very poor countries like Cambodia, facing 49% tariffs because they do not, according to the regime, they do not buy American goods. Yeah. I mean, how can they? They can't afford them. I mean, do you think the, Cambodians are buying iPhones and stuff like that? I've been trawling through a lot of the videos, the people reacting, of course, to markets, etc. But you know what I find fascinating is the comments. The wisdom that is shared in the comments by real people. Now, I can't independently verify this at this stage, but it sounds about right. And one person wrote in the comments that the average income in Cambodia is about $300, yeah, $300 per month. So, of course, they're not going to be buying iPhones, etc., which, ironically, most of them, of course, are compiled in China, as everyone knows. But they're not going to be buying Chryslers, big gas-guzzling cars and stuff like that, because it's Cambodia, yeah? And they were, what are they? They deal, I think it's mainly in diamonds. I think it's diamonds and some minerals and stuff like that. This isn't a big economy. So if you can imagine the devastation this is going to wreak. And that's just one example. But in terms of going back, how relevant, where it talks about, from Fronto, I learned to observe that envy and duplicity and hypocrisy are in a tyrant. Yeah. And that is who is the commander-in-chief at the moment extraordinaire. Yeah, because this is tyranny. Yeah, it is a form of tyranny. Now it's backfiring, of course. Yeah, it's backfiring. It's tanking everything. People are confused and they're wondering why this is happening. But those that are confused, especially when you see these pundits and stuff like that on TV, it's probably because they've not been paying close enough attention, yeah? Or not thinking of the consequences of what happens when a nation votes in a tyrant, yeah? Now, of course, the vast majority of you watching, that doesn't apply to you, as you guys often say, no, that, not everyone voted for Trump. I understand that. But the problem is that a significant part of the population did, and another very significant part of the population, 90 million, depending on which accounts one looks at, did not vote at all. Yeah, did not participate in what, as you know, in all the build-up to this, and I'm not the only one that's been saying it, but I've repeatedly say it, particularly during the election campaign. I said this is going to be one of the most consequential elections in human history. Yeah, human history. And a lot just said, yeah, I'll sit this one out. Yeah. And that can be for many different reasons, of course. A lot of that as well is to do with apathy. A lot of people thinking that their vote doesn't matter. Well, guess what? It does. It does. We know there was some skullduggery of, some shape or form, which, we can't quite put our finger on in terms of the results, etc., and stuff like that. But something I've always said, as you guys will know, I said, I didn't say enough. I said it in the lead up to the campaign, mainly. But I said, Trump doesn't have to win. It just has to be close. Yeah? Just has to be close. And I think he had certain ideas in place for the election, yeah, in terms of maybe taking it to the Supreme Court, etc. Because remember, they had already said, really, without using the word, they had already anointed him as king. And this is something that they'll come to regret, by the way. Yeah, because as Marcus Aurelius says, from Fronto I learned to observe that envy and duplicity and hypocrisy are in a tyrant, which means that no one is safe because it is based on the whims of the tyrant, who is intrinsically hypocritical, yeah, which is what we found, yeah. You don't need me to detail all of that. Anyone who's paying attention will have seen this. But equally, a lot of people have not wanted to see this because they thought the whims of a tyrant would be good for them. Yeah? But it's good for no one. It's only good for the tyrant and those that he considers friends. And tyrants in general don't have many friends, yeah? They like it that way. They have a small clique. Or they look to other tyrants for inspiration, yeah, which is one of the things that we've seen. So this, of course, is... sorry, I was scratching at my nose there. This, of course, is obvious to many people that will be watching this. But for those to whom it was not obvious, they are now finding out. Yep, right on cue, because Saturn, as we know, has changed signs. He's now in sidereal Pisces. And I said, now comes the reality check. Big time reality check. Saturn came in on the 29th to create a 7-planet stellium. But as you know, I count Chiron as well. When you include Chiron, it's 8. It was 8. And it was an eclipse. 2 weeks beforehand, we had the lunar eclipse, which talks about people. Yeah, the consciousness was rising in the people, where a lot of people that voted for this have started to realize what they have done. But I said the solar eclipses are about what? Leadership. And look what has been exposed about the leadership leading up to this eclipse. Because it's not everything happens absolutely exactly on the one day. It's like the sun rising. Yeah, the sun doesn't rise immediately. The horizon gets brighter and brighter, and then it breaks, and then, then you see everything. But what it means is eclipses are always revelatory. They always reveal something that wasn't clearly articulated before. It may have been known by those that were perceptive, but it's when the eclipse comes, something comes out of the shadow, or some kind of revelation about really what's going on. We saw Signal Gate. Yeah, again, leadership. All of those people, Pete Hegseth and JD Vance and whoever else was on that chat conducted on an app, yeah, which is absolutely embarrassed America and embarrassed the military as well. There's that. and then revelations about those said persons' private lives, which turned out also to be very hypocritical. But then once the eclipse actually happened and broke, now we see what is dawning across the whole world. Yeah, that essentially it seems to the vast majority of people that unfortunately America is pretty much a cacostocracy at this stage. Let's see what happens. I think there's marches today, isn't there? There's going to be a lot of marches because I've lost track of the time here, but because I'm doing this on my phone. But there's lots of mass protest planned all across America, isn't it? It's about what is it? Oh, forgive me. I'll have to drop it in as an image, or I'll put it in as text. But you know, there's a lot of protests. So look, the pushback is starting. We had that guy do that 25-hour filibuster. I think that needs to be discussed. Not filibuster. That guy who talked for 25 minutes in Congress, not 25 minutes, 25 hours. Pardon me. Extraordinary. So there is pushback. Yeah. So one of the things I want to discuss, and look at that, I've already spoken too long already on these things. There was a recent discovery. Now there is some. It's disputed. Yeah, it's disputed. But people did ask questions about it, and there was said to be these discoveries found at the underneath the pyramids of Giza. These huge structures said to go to, you know, hundreds of meters under the ground. They may have even said 1,600 meters underground, and they were showing these spiral-like kind of things. I'll try and drop in an image either here or here of what was which has made global news. The scientists said that they used a satellite technique, which was basically to do with vibrations. Based on those vibrations on the ground, they said, look, there's all of this underground stuff there, and it was showing like these almost like these spiral staircases, which almost look like giant shock absorbers, etc., and all of this kind of stuff. Because we are at the change of the ages. You've heard me mention before. We are gone from Kali Yuga into Dwapara Yuga, which is the age of energy. Yeah, the age of energy. Let me just find my, oh, crikey, you think, yeah, I'm always moving things around. So I'll show you guys this illustration, which many of you will know. Now, there is even a debate on the yugas, the length of the yugas, but there is a consensus, pretty much, that Kali Yuga has come to an end. So this is one of the things that I've got in my book, you know, which is the Candid Guide to Vedic Astrology, or Neo-Vedic Astrology. If you look here, this is Kali Yuga, yeah? These are the ages, yeah? When Kali Yuga is the age of iron, when human consciousness is said to be at its lowest, yeah? And then if you see, we're kind of like, yeah, we're kind of here, yeah? So we're just out of Kali Yuga and we're going into a Dwapara Yuga. So, and this is said to be a cycle that lasts approximately 24,000 years. Now, depending which Vedic philosophy you may look at, some say it's a 12,000 year cycle divided up into equal portions of 3,000 years. Some say it's a 24,000 year cycle with, you know, them lasting different sections of time. But the idea is that human consciousness is now on the way up. So we have ascending and descending. So we really are starting to ascend. But this Dwapara Yuga, which is often described as the age of energy, and one of the things I argue in my book is that it started in the year 1900. Yeah. But we're now properly into that age. And if you think of how much things have rapidly advanced since 1900. And the dead giveaway always, of course, was the splitting of the atom. Yeah, if we think about that, around about 1930, if I recall, there or thereabouts. And then, of course, we went into, we had then the atom bomb, etc. And that really was the age of energy, in my opinion, when it, once we had mass electrification, etc., all of that stuff, because electrification, of course, was a huge deal for humanity. Of course, there was always candles. Yeah, we've had candles for thousands of years. But once things became electrified and you had electric lighting and, trains running on electricity and stuff like that, that was the age of energy. And of course, things have developed rapidly since then. Now we're in the age of AI, yeah, and all the consequences of that. So human consciousness is shifting up. Now, there's this guy here who, here's his book here. It's called Billy Carson. I don't know his political affinities, so please don't, screech me in the comments if it turns out that he might be more conservative or this, that, and the other. I really don't know, yeah? But what's most important is the concepts and the knowledge. So now it's called, so he's written this book called The Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, A Beginner's Guide, yeah? And on the front, he's got a picture of Thoth, yeah, which is also known as Hermes Trismegistus. But on my Thursday show, I showed a little example from a tabloid magazine in the UK called The Sun, yeah? And in it, they were talking about this discovery, yeah? This alleged discovery under the pyramids of Giza. Is yet to be ratified and peer-reviewed. But even in that article, they talked about the halls of Amenti. And here I just thought I would read certain sections of that out. And I just find it interesting that this should come up as something in this time frame. So anyway, Billy Carson quotes various tracks of these emerald tablets, which are said to be some of the oldest tablets out there. I think they were written in cuneiform, something like that. And they say they're actually written in like slabs of emerald, yeah? And they were missing for a long time. There's a big old drama about even how they even got discovered. But anyway, so it's up there with like Hermes Trismegistus, and the Hermetic orders and all of this kind of stuff, which was a revelation which actually was part of what spurred the Renaissance. It was one of the contributing texts, shall we say, especially Hermes Trismegistus. Anyway, so I'm just going to quote these bits here. I'm just going to read this out. And Thoth said, side by side then, placed they other spaces, filled them with life, and with light from above. Builded they then the halls of Amenti, that they may dwell eternally there, living with life to eternity's end. 32 were there of the children, sons of lights who had come among men. So when they describe lights, they mean beings of light from other places and other dimensions, seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bounded by the force from beyond. Deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming, expanding, and driving backward the light. So they argue that that flower is the flower of life, yeah, which many of you may know, yeah, many of us have seen this. Placed in the center a ray of great potence, life-giving, light-giving, filling with power all who came near it. Placed they around it thrones, 32, places for each of the children of the light, placed so that they were bathed in the radiance, filled with the life from the eternal light. Yeah, and Carson goes on to write that the flower of life, in fact, is a 64-grid tetrahedron parallax, he says. However, these are actually two-dimensional representations of a three-dimensional structure, which the tree of life, they say in its three form, is to represent the nexus of the universe itself. Anyway, I don't want to go to we can always explore these things a bit more. Antoth said, it continues, there time after time placed their first created bodies, yeah, so the first created bodies, so that they may be filled with the spirit of life. 100 years out of each 1,000 must the life-giving light flame forth on their bodies. So they have to lay there for 100 years as they are imbibed with life by the flower of life, as it would suggest, quickening, awakening the spirit of life. There, in the circle from aeon to aeon, sit the great masters, living a life not known among men. There in the halls of life, i.e. the halls of Amenti, they lie sleeping. Free flows their soul through the bodies of men. Yeah, so their consciousness is said to go through mankind. Time after time, while their bodies lie sleeping, incarnate they in the bodies of men, teaching and guiding onward and upward, out of the darkness into the light. Yeah? So I just thought that that was fascinating, that this should be coming at a global story, as a global story. This, again, disputed, yet to be ratified, discovery under the pyramids of Giza, just at a time when the Kali Yuga is really said to have lost its grip. Yeah? So it shows the consciousness is going up. Yeah? It shows that the consciousness is going up. And I hope that it gives people encouragement, because as an age, as an epoch comes to an end and the new energy comes in, it is necessary that that which was old, yeah, and as in like outdated ideas, naturally, of course, those things have to come to an end. And I think this is what we are also seeing, which is something that I was making proclamations about. As you know, this is a great ending of something. It's not only economic, yeah. It's not only economic, because obviously the world is new alliances are being formed. Yeah, it's being said that China, South Korea, and Japan are collaborating, reacting, going to have a coordinated response to the tariffs. China's already responded with 34% retaliation tariffs of its own. But the fact that South Korea, Japan, and China are collaborating, working together after centuries of beef is remarkable. I mean, we're literally centuries. If you guys haven't seen it, I'll try and make sure I link it in the video description below. But I said the crown, yeah, in terms of, I was shown energy, because you know I meditate with the planets, and I was shown that the crown moved from the United States and is now over Europe in terms of defending the free world. Yeah. So there is going to be global trade and all of that stuff. It's going to continue. But this kind of warfare, yeah, this kind of economic warfare is not part of the age that is emerging, because as the consciousness rises, humanity becomes more and more collaboratory, less and less about war and conflict, etc., less about greed and exploitation. And as we've seen, as I've been saying, with the Pluto return of the United States, with Pluto going through sidereal Capricorn, as I warned, and thus has come true, hasn't it? I said this is about corporate oligarchy, yeah? Oligarchy affecting government, which we can all now see. So that consciousness is coming to an end, and a new consciousness is emerging. But it means old ways of thinking have to pass on, And this is why everyone now, of course, is getting the reality check. But it's for the better. So I'm going to leave it there, otherwise I'll go on too long. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in terms of the comments about the content that I've shared with you guys today. And of course, please don't forget as well to like and subscribe and share, because of course subscription like this video is free, yeah, and it would really help. I'd love to get this content, this type of thing, out to more people. So yeah, and if you have any suggestions as well of what you would like me to discuss next week, possibly something positive and uplifting or interesting around the world. But just know this, the energy is changing, the energy is rising. Selfishness and those darker energies are being pushed out and will no longer be rewarded. New energies coming in. I'll leave it there. All right, bye-bye for now. Cheers.